We recently put together this Pico cart, which allows us to mount game images to run them on the Atari. But where do we get those game images from? Well, first of all, we need to go on our modern computer, download them from some dodgy website, and then transfer them to this over USB. But could we cut out the middleman? Could we cut out that modern computer and instead just put the Atari online, download the games directly to this, to play them on this? Well, that's what we're going to try and do today with this thing. This is a Fujinet. Or at least it will be when we finish putting it together. Now, we bought these last year as part of a group buy over on the CRG Discord, and we did get JLC to do most of the assembly, apart from the ESP32 Wi-Fi module, which needs to go on there, and a lot of pins. I'm not looking forward to doing those pins, but one thing at a time. Let's fit this first of all. Now, I'm not going to make the same mistake I did a couple of weeks ago when assembling the juice box. There's a pad underneath this thing which needs to be soldered as well. And so my plan to fit this anyway is we'll put a bit of flux on that pad. We're going to flow a bit of solder onto it. And then I'm going to hit this with hot air until that goes molten again, and we'll just drop this thing on it. Feels like it will work, might work. We'll soon find out. Right, I'm not actually sure that did work. We're not off to the best start here, are we? So I'm going to put a bit of blue tack at the bottom of this chip, or this Wi-Fi module. We'll lift this up just to try and melt that solder in there again, and then just drop it down into place. Is it going to take it that? I think we might have got it. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that. And in terms of alignment, it's not too bad either. So, easy bit is just a bit of drag soldering along the side of it. I'll just let it cool down for a minute, clean it up, and then we'll tackle those pins. See these things? These were expensive and there's no spurs. Kicked the end of the board a little bit with my hot air escapades, but that'll be alright. These pins, we have two sets of them to fit to this. There's a set to go on here for it to plug into the Atari, and then a set to go on there as a pass-through. Not that I'll ever use the pass-through, but maybe we should just fit it anyway, shouldn't we? But essentially what we're doing here is creating like a plug to go into the back of the Atari. Now there's this 3D printed part that will sit on there. Then each one of these goes down through this. It'll sit like that at the end of the plug, and then goes into its corresponding hole. Because of the nature of this though, we need to do all of these together. And yeah, I probably should have looked up a tutorial of how to do this first of all, but anyone that's been watching this channel for any length of time should know me better than that. That's all of them through there, but as you can see, those are quite loose in those holes. So I've been trying to think of the best way to do this. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. This is the case. Our board will go into the case like that. And it's that side that plugs into the Atari. Okay. That side into the Atari. This thing needs to go on there. But I think what we might be better doing is putting that into the case, just so that we have everything aligned properly. And we'll even put the board into the case. Then if I try and push those pins up into the holes here, if you can see that, I'm not sure if you can, that first one there is just sort of aligned with the hole. I mean, the pin is just sticking through it, no more. In fact, the pin might be through it too much because I now can't see the pin on this side. Well, I suppose I can a bit. Ideally, I want it like that one. You see that first one there? I think that's the way you'd want it, with the end of the pin sort of level with the end of the plug. That will just help give it some rigidity, just because there is so much space inside this plug. Okay, so I've got a bit of blue tack on the bottom of the plug there to hold those first few pins in position anyway. So let's try and solder them up, and then we'll inspect it and see what it's like. Those next two actually look like they're sitting okay as well, so let's just flow them while we're at it. Right, let's see where we are. Yeah, that's how I want this to look. So that you can just see the gold of the pins sticking through there. I think this is going to work okay. And again, I'm reasonably happy with how that's sitting. Let's just try it. I wonder if those ones at the bottom there maybe sitting up too much. But no, these four here. Well, we'll just go for it and see what they look like. I can always try and reflow them, push them through a bit if need be. And yeah, I was right. Those four could be better. Right, pushing that into the desk there and reflowing all of that, I was able to get them through a bit more. What's it like now? Yeah, I think that's pretty much perfect. So now it's just these ones. The thing that's difficult this time is that the hole is considerably bigger. Considerably bigger than the pin, as you can see. Right, this is the only way that I can think of doing this. Our blue tack friend is stuck in there, and we're going to stick these pins into that blue tack to hold it, or to hold them in position. Then offer this up and solder it. The problem doing it like this is that I have no way to guarantee that the pins are going in straight. I really can't think of any other way to do it. Isn't it just as well that you can buy these things fully assembled, ready to go? It's not too bad. It's not great either. But there's hopefully enough play in the socket there that I can just bend these into position. So that should I ever try and use this pass through, you know, it would work. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Just to put it in its case then. And then we need to program it. So programming this is really straightforward, or it's meant to be anyway. Just go over to fujinet.online. In the download folder then, we get a link to the GitHub to download the Fujinet flasher. This seems to be the latest one, version 1.5. So I have downloaded that, but just before we run it, let's connect the Fujinet to your computer over USB, making sure that it's turned on, power switch up, and then we'll just run this as administrator. So select the serial port, COM7, that's the only one that comes up there. Baud rate, we don't need to change that. We're not interested in custom firmware file. Instead, we will select our firmware by the platform, so Atari 8-bit. We'll just select the latest one there, 1.5.2 actually, and let's go for it. So it downloads the firmware and then proceeds to flash it to the Fujinet. Right, that seems to be it. Setup complete, so I think we can disconnect that now. And all we're going to do is put this into the back of the Atari. Hopefully this will just plug in. And yeah, it's a bit tight, but that's how we would want it. That's sitting in there nice and snug. Now you can put an SD card into your Fujinet. I intend to put this 8 gig card into it. More than enough for the Atari 800 here. But that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this one is I want to try and play a game from online. I want to download the game directly to this. So just to prove to you that there's no SD card in this thing, that would go in there. Sort of like that. But we're not using it today. We're just going to use the Fujinet online. So it is booting into Fujinet. Welcome to Fujinet, and it's scanning for a network. That's what we need to do first of all. Connect this to our home Wi-Fi. And that's mine there, Netgear Home. How original. So we'll just type in the password. And hopefully it connects. Yeah, connection success. So the host list there, that is a pre-set up list of things that we can look at using the Fujinet. First one, SD, that would be your SD card, but we're not using that today. There are then 4 online repositories. So let's just take a look. This is an Atari, and we're looking for a game. Lots to choose from, although there is one in particular that I'm looking for. Yomp. I am addicted to this game. So after selecting the program that you want to run, we need to mount it to a drive slot. We'll just mount it into the first slot there. You can mount it either as read-only or read and write. We'll just mount it as read-only. And then once we've done that, we need to press and hold Option to restart the machine and boot to that mounted file. Once it restarts, you can let go. And that seems to be the wrong version of Yomp. So just do a quick power cycle. And let's try one of the other online repositories. See if we can maybe find it in there. Find a version that is compatible with our PAL 800XL. There's another version of it there, this time on fujinet.pl. So let's try that one. We'll just mount it over the top of what we had in slot 1 there. Again, we'll mount it as read-only and Option to restart and boot. Yeah, it's working this time. And believe it or not, that is now downloading that game from the net directly into this Atari 800XL for us to play. That is a little bit mind-blowing if you actually think about it. But there it is. So let's give it a go. I've only made it up to level 7 in this so far. Not actually sure how many levels there are. But it is incredibly addictive. And yet again, level 7 is my downfall. Fantastic game though. And what makes it all the more impressive is that we just downloaded that from the internet directly to this machine. But what else can we do with a FUJINET? Well, quite a bit actually. Because it's not just about games, we can run applications too, including some modern applications. And if we take a look in here, one of the, what you might say, fun applications that we can run is in FUJINET apps. And if we go down to the second page, well, we can find out what the weather is. Is it ever going to stop raining? I honestly think it has rained every single day this year. And there we are. Tonight's forecast is broken clouds, 39.1 degrees Fahrenheit. We use Celsius here, but I think if we press U, that will change the units for me. 3.9 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it is kind of cold. Now, it is saying that is in a town called Ilford in Great Britain. Not exactly where I am. In fact, where is Ilford? Well, according to Google Maps, there it is there, just outside London. That is nowhere near me. I'm over in Belfast. But pressing option does give us a bit of a menu there. So let's see if we can tell it our location, can we? I mean, detect location is on there, yes or no. So let's have it not detect our location. I wonder then, would it ask me to input our location perhaps? No, still seems to think I'm in Ilford. And what's the forecast? Well, it looks like tomorrow's going to be alright, but we might get a spot of snow on Sunday and then back to rain on Monday. You know, this machine came out in '83. I wonder, did anyone way back then think that we'll be using it today in 2026 to check the weather forecast? Probably not. But that is just really scratching the surface of what you can do with the FUJINET. As I said, you can run stuff from SD card, so I will grab a more complete software library and stick that on one of those. Or you can even run your own server on your own home computer and connect to that via the FUJINET to download software in a similar way to as we did, downloading directly from the internet. And if you're even running any productivity software on your Atari, something that might want to print, well, you can set up a virtual printer in this and print to a PDF file. All very impressive stuff, but for me, for today, all I really wanted to do was try and play a game downloaded from the internet directly to the 800XL, and we certainly succeeded with that. The FUJINET is also not just limited to the Atari machines, as you might have seen when going into some of those online repositories. There is other systems listed there. FUJINET also supports some Apple machines, even the Commodore 64, I believe. All the details that you need for it are available on fujinet.online. And indeed, some of my YouTube colleagues here have previously made excellent videos on the FUJINET, going into a bit more depth than I have today. So if you want to learn more about it, I'll link some of those videos down in this video's description. Control-Alt-Reese did a very good video last year, as did Retronaut. Both definitely worth checking out. So I must say, playing with the 800XL again here over the last few weeks, I have been very impressed with it. So it's definitely not the last you've seen of this machine on this channel. Quite a few of you recommended some modifications that we can do to this. Definitely want to do something with the video signal, just because, as you've seen while using this, it is a bit ropey. So want to try and get that sharpened up. And I think we could also add a bit more memory to this. For now though, I'm just going to continue exploring the games library, either with the FUJINET or the A8 Pico cart. So I welcome any recommendations for that. And as for this video, well, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed what you've seen, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Why not hit subscribe if you haven't done so already? Still plenty more yet to come here on CRG, and I'll see you next time.